Hello everybody, welcome to this Java tutorial. So today we will be working on variables, okay? And variables is just a kind of way how we store data inside of Java, okay? So a variable is kind of like a labeled box. You give it a name and then you put something inside of here. So let's say we had three boxes, right? We had a red box, a blue box, and an orange box. We put a number inside of the red box with a number inside of the green box, and we put another number inside the red box, okay? So that's pretty much the concept that goes behind a variable. It stores information so that we can use that information at a later stage. Okay. So there's a lot of different types of variable types, and I'm just going to walk us through a little bit. Okay. So the first variable type that we have on the screen already is an int. Okay, and int just stands for an integer. Okay, as we can see, we have our int over here, and we have the name of our int, and we put whatever number we want to have inside of it in here. So for example, let's say we wanted to have a variable called score, and we wanted to put the number 100 inside of this variable, right? And remember, because we're using a number, right, we need to use int. So int score equals 100. Okay. And let's say, for example, we wanted to do temperature. Okay. It's the same philosophy. We do int temperature, and let's say it's freezing, right? We do -5, and we add our semicolon. So we can kind of see, how variables and different data types work. Okay. So now we're going to move on to another data type called doubles. Okay. And doubles is used for specifically decimal numbers. Okay. So now, for example, let's say we wanted to look at the price of something like, I don't know, a box, right? We would use our variable type, right? And we need to give it a name. So it's called price, and we would put something like 12.50 inside. And that's kind of how we use the variable type called double. Next, let's say we had height, right? We would do something like double height equals 190. Okay? 180, sorry. And lastly, let's say we wanted to put something like pi, right? We do double pi equals 3.14, and we can actually go as long as we go a little bit longer here. We do 1.59. Okay, that's as far as I remember for pi. So you can correct me in comments if I'm wrong, but yeah. So pretty much, double. This box holds a decimal number, right? Price, would hold the name, and then our number itself will hold the value, right? And why is it called a double? It uses double the memory of a regular number, okay? But we don't need to worry about that. Just remember, when you see decimals, okay, we've got to use a double, okay? And now, one of the most important types of data, in any programming languages other than a number would be a string, right? And a string is just text. This can be text for words, sentences, or even a bunch of random characters, right? Anything that pretty much has letters, and it can also have numbers as well. Okay, so how we write a string is we will do string, and this time we're going to need to use a capital letter, right? And we're just going to do string name, and we'll just use arf. Okay, string name. And now what we need to do here is we need to do equals, and then we put it inside quotes here. We use my name. Okay, perfect. We can also use a string for something like a sentence, right? So we can do string and greeting, right? Greeting equals, and we also have, remember, it needs to be in here. So we do hello, nice to meet you, or to D2. And don't forget, we need to have our semicolon at the end, okay? So pretty much a string this is the box that holds the text. Name, this is the name of the box. And then the value is whatever you want to have inside of a string. And remember, a string must always have double quotes at the start and at the end, okay? So now, another type of data type that we can also use is something called a Boolean, okay? For those of us who are very new to computer science as a whole, I would explain what a Boolean is. A Boolean pretty much is one of two things. It's rather true or false. Nothing else, okay? It's rather true or it's rather false. A Boolean is probably the most simplest type of structured data. And we can use it for instances like, okay, a light switch, for example. A light switch is rather on or off. A door is rather open or closed, right? And we are rather in, I don't know, in Europe or not, okay? So for some type of data that we need to store, it's rather only going to be a true or false. So for example, we start off with our data called Boolean, and we do something like, let's say, has license, okay? And let's say this person does not have their license, we'll just set it to false, okay? Another example could be, let's say, okay, employed or not, is employed. We can do something like, yep, true, if you are employed. So pretty much that's kind of how a Boolean works. So Boolean in here, this will mean, okay, this holds whether it's true or false. This is the name, right? And this is the value that we're storing, okay? This is not a text, so it does not need any semicolon, all right? So we use a lot for making decisions inside of code, okay? Now, another type of data type we can use is something called a char, right? And char just stands for character, okay? And it holds exactly one letter or one symbol, okay? So let's say, for example, we had char grade, okay? And now this is where the cool part comes in, right? So for a grade, we use, instead of using a double colon, right? We use, instead of using a double quote, we use a single quote, right? And we can just put letter A, and then we have a semicolon at the end. And there we go. So that's how a character works, okay? I'll give you another example. So let's say you wanted to store something like euros, right? So char euros equals, and then we're just going to use, I don't have a euro sign here, so we're just going to use a pound sign, okay? And then another example would be, let's say, dollars, right? The dollars equals, and we need to add in here. Perfect. So just like that, we have it. And yeah, so a character holds one character, right? It can only hold one, and it uses single quotes, not double, okay? And yeah, pretty much that's it for this video. But just as a quick summary, right? An integer holds numbers, a double holds decimal numbers, a string holds texts, a Boolean would hold a true or false, and a character would only hold a singular character, whether it's a symbol, a sign, or just a singular letter. Okay, so these are pretty much our building blocks for Java, and everything in Java uses at least one of these, right? And yeah, so in our next video, we're gonna look into printing variables, changing variables, and yeah, so stay tuned for that. And well done for sticking along through this video.